Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for tuning in. This is another installment of Going Elliptic with Crypto Chat, where we talk to the most interesting people around crypto communities, get a pulse for what's going on, and hear those inside stories. So yeah, really appreciate you tuning in. Before we jump in, just a reminder, it is all educational advice. We won't be sharing any investment advice, neither us nor our guests, but we do hope that you learn something. If you do, please click like, subscribe, or drop us a comment as well. Hey, Shanky.
Hey, Paul. How are you doing today?
Yeah, pretty good. It's a little bit different to our usual time slot, but that's the world these days. And crypto is so diverse, you've got to, go to where everyone's at.
That's correct. It really is a global phenomena. And yes, we do it usually a day after, but we have moved our schedule forward. Well, thanks to our guest, we have an interesting person today.
Yeah, no, this person was recommended to us from BTC VIX, and I think there's probably some interesting backstory there. But Shanky, who do we have?
That's true. So, BTC VIX told us about this awesome NFT auctioneer. And so that's Theo Goodman. He's a person who people in the crypto world may know because he's been around for a long time. But I think he's done some amazing things with NFT and NFT auctioning more recently over the last year. So let's bring him on. Let's talk to him and let's get to know more about the story. Hey, Theo.
Hey, what's up, guys? I'm glad to be included in, some of the most interesting people in crypto. So yeah, I'm honored. Thanks for having me on.
100%. Well, you indeed are one of the most interesting people, and certainly it's interesting times. But take us back a little bit, and for our audience, tell us how the journey started. What got you into crypto? I know you've done a lot of meetups, you've organized things, you've set up foundations. Tell us a little bit of that.
Sure. Well, I think that without going so extremely in depth to like the whole life story, actually the first place I heard of Bitcoin was on a domain name forum. So namepros.com. I was into, as soon as I realized you could buy and sell domains. I think I had heard of buying and selling domains, but I didn't get into it. But as soon as the first time I was like, hey, I'm going to do my own business. I'm going to do, I used to like teach English and like do like cultural consulting and stuff like that, like for business people here in Germany. And I was like, okay, I'm tired of doing freelance for other companies. I'm going to set up my own company, theogoodman.com. I even have theogoodman.com. You can check it out, but it looks a lot different than it did at the beginning. And anyway, and I was like, wow, I'm going to buy a bunch of more domains. Why not? This is cool. And then I just, searched on the internet, and I ended up at namepros.com, which still is the biggest forum for domain names. I'm not really active there because of crypto takes up my whole life, basically, as far as anything like that. But the jump from, that forum is all about buying and selling domains, developing web pages. Back then it was more like, like the Google search optimization was way different. People making like little mini pages, trying to get traffic, make little money, or people building real business, like bigger businesses, or people that are really purely getting the drops, domain names drops and catching them and all that. But that's a digital asset too, domain name, digital asset. So the jump to Bitcoin was not that crazy of an idea. And so in 2013, when there was that big price increase, when the banks in Cyprus, so what happened was, if people don't know, what happened was in Cyprus, basically, make a long story short, they had big economic problems, government problems. Government basically was kind of like bankrupt and all this stuff. And in the comments, feel free to correct me if I'm getting like the details wrong. But basically, they had a big problem, and that people were trying to get them. They had a bank run. They had a bank run. People had issues getting money in and out of Cyprus, and because of that, you know how crypto is, big news event. The price went from like, I don't know, 25 cents or $1 to like 200 or something like that, and then it went down back to like 100. I think after the whole pump or whatever, 90 or something like that. And yeah, I was quite suspicious of it, of course, because in the domain world, there's tons of scams too. It's just like crypto. There's scams everywhere. There's spammers, different style of scams, or some of them are the same, but there's tons of scams. So I was really suspicious. And I did some research, and people, at the domain name forum, Name Pros, there's a chat, and it's a troll box basically. And everyone would be in there, and there'd be different time zones. And, you kind of just hang out with people and you chat and be like, hey, yeah, I got this cool domain. Or, hey, there's a cheat. I got a 99-cent code. And like, I resold the 99-cent code domain for $500, guy. I flipped it, and like, we're just like doing just basically like crypto, very similar, and then, so anyway, people were like, hey, I bought Bitcoin and it went up, or I bought it and it went down, and people were really, that was the big topic because of that big price movement. And so, yeah, I just, did some real simple searches like how to get free Bitcoin, or Bitcoin miner, how to Bitcoin mine, typical stuff. I think I set up an online, I think the first wallet I did was an online one at Blockchain Info, hit some faucets. But then I also was trying to, I didn't understand how mining worked because I didn't read like massive amounts of paper at first. And so I thought, no, this is definitely a scam, guys. It's a multi-level marketing scam because the mining pool asked me to make a worker. And if you don't know, the mining pool work, and I was like, oh, I got to have a worker. That's my downline. Like I thought that was like my multi-level, because that's what it sounded like if you don't know. But but you have to also understand that's a way different world than what we live in. I was already looking at a mining pool. I was registering at mining pools, trying to be like, yeah, okay, I want to do this. What do I do? Connect to my wallet or whatever. But of course, I had no idea. That was probably just in the first few days. So you could, it was totally, yeah, and like little by little. Of course, I was already politically aligned with it, coming from more of like, anarchism or like, critical thinking, anti-globalization movement, all that kind of stuff, definitely coming from that anyway. But, and you saw like, pro Assange and like different stuff on all the Bitcoin websites. So I thought, well, this is really interesting. How come I didn't know about this before? This is really, and I was like, or had like, Occupy stuff on some of the sites still, so it's still kind of familiar. And I thought, well, this is really interesting. And I just kept on reading more, getting more into it, watch videos, and next thing you know, in a quick time frame, at the co-working space where I was at, there happened to be a Bitcoin meetup, but it was the first one in Frankfurt. And I said, oh, and I asked, hey, who's organizing that? I was like, I don't know, this guy came in and he's a friend of a friend. He wants to do a meetup. And so I was there. So everyone that was there at the first meetup, we always say, hey, we're co-founders of the first Bitcoin meetup. We allowed ourselves to like say, yeah, I'm a founder of the first. So that's how I got into it. Yeah, and like I said, definitely I had before been into, I guess you could say I was a gold and silver bug, but I was never like a fanatic. But I always was interested in precious metals. I was always interested in, treasure hunting, whether that be like, I don't know, antiquing or metal detecting or anything like that. And just in my family, pretty much everyone does something like that too. So it all kind of fits in to the whole thing. It's just that now it's digital, and the whole move from like domain names to crypto was very logical. And at the beginning, I was like, this is great. It's just the same. It's like, okay, so you have like Bitcoin, it's like .com, and then you have the shit coins, it's like .info and .org. and then dot whatever. You know what I mean? It was
Interesting.
it was really simple. And then you could go to Bitcoin Talk. You could go to Bitcoin Talk.org, which was super important, of course. And you could back then they allowed it in the shitcoin threads. What you would do, what every new shitcoin would be like, post your address and we'll send you some coins. You didn't even have to go to a faucet. So it would just like, and so I did that, and I had a bunch of random ones, and that's the best way to learn. That's how I learned. Learning by doing. I get some, try to sync the node. Or how do you sync the node? It's not working. Or what's the exchange? How do I go to the exchange? Where is it? Oh no, it's not working. All stuff. Just all learning by doing, reading a lot, mostly on the forums. Yeah, and then, you know, bit by bit. Oh yeah, and then like BTC Trollbox, you know, all kinds of stuff. I think that's would basically be like the, you know, introductory story, basically.
Yeah, very fascinating. Very, very cool.
Yeah, and I think the first trade was arbitrage, actually, because it was like, this is really weird. And then I was not a trader. I didn't have any trading background. I mean, of course, trading domain names, the same. You buy a domain name, and then you sell it, right? So, but, and then someone at the co-working that was into Forex was like, yeah, man, you got to look, Bitcoin price is weird. You've got to do arbitrage. I was like, arbitrage, okay, let me check that out. So I just looked it up and was like, oh yeah, that makes sense. So, you know, I mean, just for no money, basically, but it didn't matter. It was just fascinating that it worked. You know, I could send like Litecoin to this one place and trade it for Bitcoin and then send Litecoin back, and it worked. And I thought, wow, that's amazing. That's like man discovers fire moment, you know? So, and yeah, and so, okay, so, I don't know. So now here I am with NFTs basically as the main thing.
Yeah, and you got into NFTs pretty early compared to everyone else, right? It was something you know, before it was really mainstream. And it's also interesting because I can see that thread from where you were with some of the domain name community side, and even that first meetup. You know, so much of what we see in the crypto space is about a community, but it has to have a culture element to it, and then the crypto incentives or crypto economics. So that intersection of the three, you must have seen the importance of that when you saw the NFTs, right? It's just a continuation of that spectrum for you.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also, you know, am a musician, artist too. So the NFTs made sense right away. Of course, it was not called NFT back then. So just that whole thing. That's the whole funny thing. That's what I mean. But that's what happens when things get bigger. When we say crypto, I mean, it's an okay term, but it kind of does a disservice to like cryptographers and stuff, you know. But it is what it is. That's what it's called. We know what you mean. If you mean crypto, you mean the stuff people trade as crypto. You don't mean PGP or cryptography or something for the most case. You have to specify then. But it was the other way. It started the other way around. So NFT, yeah. So in 2014, I did see on the forum Mastercoin, and I didn't even really totally figure out what it was, but people were really into it. But for people that don't know, Mastercoin was probably the first ICO and probably the first token mechanism layer or whatever you want. There was colored coins, but I had not heard of that yet. I heard about that later. And Mastercoin, people were into it. Anyway, they did like an ICO. I don't even know if it was called an ICO then. And shockingly enough, it's really funny. It's still there on Bitcoin Talk. You can check it now. There's even a section called securities, which is exactly what no one wants to say they are now. But there's a whole section of Bitcoin Talk called securities, which probably Mastercoin was in, but I don't know. Anyway, I'd heard of that. Then Counterparty came out in 2014, and that kind of made it easy to make tokens. And yeah, I was just, you know, again, learning by doing. I had heard about it, I think, on Let's Talk Bitcoin podcast, which still exists. I think letstalkbitcoin.com. And they did a lot of early stuff with tokens. That's what everyone just called it then, tokens. And, you know, and there weren't really a lot of ICOs, even though Mastercoin had done one. And so that the only real use case was making random tokens and trying to figure out what to do with them, basically. And so let's talk Bitcoin. I think they were giving them out, you know, like they had like a code word on their podcast, and if you like posted the code word in the comments and an address, then you got a token or something like that. So they were kind of like, that's basically, you know, proof of participation, what people call it now. And then, you know, there was I think there was a counterparty troll box, and there was a forum, and you could post stuff. Yeah, and so I just experimented. I don't have the keys to it, unfortunately, my first one, but you know, I just like made some random ones. I made one called Beep, and I would have the idea that, you know, you send me the Beep token, and I like shoot you a 1 second sound back. But I mean, I don't even have this anymore. I mean, it has it in the description. It's just like a random art project. I just thought, this is cool. This is like, let's do some really weird stuff. There was some really funny stuff going on. There were people that had, so it's for people that also don't know, because it's not how it, which is really interesting, how Counterparty is still really far ahead of its time. So it's it's a token layer on top of Bitcoin, but the features on it make so much sense. Even till today, other token layers don't necessarily have them. In the Counterparty system, each token has a human readable name. So it's not like, you know, 0x bleep boop whatever 65822, and then you have to use the UI UX to kind of like obfuscate that to make it a cool like Theo NFT or something. In all the Counterparty wallets, it's like domain names. So for example, I have the Counterparty asset Theos, like EOS but better is what I call it, Theos. So when EOS was coming out, I was like, that's so funny. Actually, there was like, and I thought, I'm gonna make Theos like EOS but better. That fits, right? So I made Theos, but there's only one Theos in the Counterparty system. So once you register that asset, that's it. Kind of like a domain name. When you register that .com, that's it. It's just that one .com. So it kind of has some parallel to domain names in some way. But the cool thing is that you can do funny things. So people register diseases. They had like syphilis and some others, and they were like sending them to random addresses, and we're like, oh, I gave you syphilis, you know? So like, yeah, they were just doing, so that's everyone, this is like early use cases of blockchain, and that's maybe the best, that's really funny. It's not, these are real uses of blockchain, not enterprise, private chains. I mean, maybe they have their space too, or like, you know, self-driving cars connected to smart contracts and all this stuff. It's just silly stuff, you know, doing really, and that's what's so funny. That's actually what we're at today. I mean, look at all the NFTs. It's just doing silly stuff. So then fast forward to the, let's see, the late, I think 2016 era, so leading into the big bull run, in the end of 2016, middle 2016, there was Spells of Genesis. Actually, Spells of Genesis was already around 2015. But Spells of Genesis, for those who don't know, it's a blockchain card trading game, kind of like Magic the Gathering style, but it has crypto-themed cards. And some of them are like dragons and stuff, but some of them are like, you know, the battle for the block size debate and stuff like that. And it's pretty cool. It's actually like really historical now, like all these things, these like vintage NFT assets. And it's cool with the Spells of Genesis ones. They do, some of them do tell a story, each card of like crypto history. And people now, you know, I think, oh, of course you remember the block size debate, but people don't know what the hell that is. They don't know how now. So it feels really interesting that these things are, it's cool that they made those to kind of, you know, artistically document, just like how a painting documents a war or battle or something like that, you know. Anyway, but that company, or one of the companies, I think Everdream, I like Everdream, so I'm not talking shit about them, but just keep it. They had their in-game currency called BitCrystals. BitCrystals was traded on the shitcoin exchanges like Polo and everywhere else. And, you know, it had its pumps and its dumps and all that stuff. They had hired VanVex, a PR company, which was a notorious, probably the first ICO PR company, basically. And so they're pretty notorious for, like, you know, blasting press releases and stuff like that, kind of ridiculously. And yeah, there were some guys that would come into the Counterparty chat and some of the other Telegram rooms like every day with a new Bit Crystal's press release or Spells of Genesis something, new card. And we just kind of started making fun of him a little bit, and that's how the whole Rare Pepe thing kind of started. I mean, Rare Pepe, so the Pepe the Frog was already a really popular sticker pack in Telegram. So we use that a lot anyway. And it kind of like, what happened was in the counterparty chat, Van Bex would post their press release again, like almost the same one as the day before, basically. And then we just started talking. We said, yeah, can't we just make our own card game? We should fork Spells of Genesis. And then like we said, like, yeah, maybe we should make King of Shitcoin card and some funny ones like that. And someone just did it then the next day, basically. Someone just said, hey, I made this Rare Pepe card. If you come to this chat and post your address, I'll give you one. And that's what happened. That's basically how it started. And then, the few like people that really were in there at the beginning kind of like made a side chat and we're like, okay, what are we going to do? We got to like figure this out because it's going to go crazy because now everyone wants to make a card and have it part of the set. And what was cool is there was a wallet called Indie Square. It's a Bitcoin wallet, but it's counterparty compatible. So every counterparty wallet is a Bitcoin wallet, but it just is able to show the tokens. And and you could even do some like little thing when you make the token to like kind of link it to a logo, so the logo shows up in the Indie Square wallet. So already we didn't need any developers. We didn't need any of that. We didn't need to launch our own shitcoin blockchain thing, and we already had all this stuff, and we had like our little logos in the thing. So that's how it really started. And then this guy Joe Looney, he's a developer, and he was already making this counterparty stuff, and he had like made counterparty wallets and all this really other cool stuff. And then he just like rebranded a project he already had developed and like kept on building it more and made it the Rare Pepe wallet. And so that is a web-based wallet that doesn't have your keys though, but it makes it so you're able to see the Rare Pepe cards. And like after that happened, I mean, everything so then what happened was, you would submit a card, and then we would check it, and then we would put it in the directory. Now, we wouldn't just check it. We were Rare Pepe scientists. That's what we called ourselves. So the scientists had to inspect the card because there were a few things there. So there were, it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. It's a kind of curation, and there were technical requirements, and there were a few other requirements because there's the Rare Pepe directory and there's the Rare Pepe wallet. And both the people those are both websites. And they didn't want to have like, certain things. It had to be, friendly for school, or friends in school, or whatever you want to say. And it had to like not be no Nazi stuff or like no extreme stuff. But we still had some edgy things, but not like, I don't know what, like completely bonkers kind of stuff. No. And so the asset had to be locked and shouldn't be divisible. And later we had different, depending on the series, we would change sometimes the rule about how many of the asset was issued. So in Counterparty, you can make a token and you can say it's not locked. Well, that means you can just issue more of it. So Theos is locked. There's only 999 ever. But if it was unlocked, then I could say, I want to issue more Theos, inflation. I would just, you know what I mean? But which is useful for some things, right? But we just made sure, okay, it has to be locked and has to be not divisible. And because at the beginning, some were divisible by accident, because when you make the asset, you have to decide that. And after you decide it, you can't undecide that later. You can't undo that. So there are some cards that are actually divisible. But, we just made, so those are some like real basic technical standards. And then people, funny enough, what happened was people got, for a while, it became really cool to have the low issue. Like someone issued like 10 of one, and that was real edgy because no one had done that. Everyone was issuing like, 200 or 1,000 or, different numbers. I made one like Ponzi Pepe, and I made it ridiculous, like, 90 million or something, So, it was just like, you know, it was kind of all over the place, and then it became a kind of fad. People were trying to be lower than each other. You know, we had some that were 1, we had some that were 3, and we're like, you know what? No, we're not. Rare Pepe scientists and the Rare Pepe Foundation have decided that's uncool because we want people to be able to collect them. Has to be at least 100. You know, and then there was a time where there were some series where it had to be 300. And then people went bonkers the other way, and they tried to make like a Dogecoin or something, and they made like, you know, 999 billion. And then people started trying to do that a lot. And we said, no, you got to rein that in. So there was just like different phases, but it's just kind of interesting to see. It was interesting to see looking back to kind of say, hey, that was kind of trends. And then that plays into the auction. So what happened with the auction? Now, if you guys have any questions, just interrupt. Otherwise,
yeah. So couple of things about Rare Pepe though. I want to at least ask some things about. I'm just curious about Rare Pepe more than anything else. I mean, we are loving your story, so we'll let you speak to it. But tell us a bit more about, you know, how did Rare Pepe become popular? So it seems like you were all on these sort of online forums. You were all having fun, creating these different sort of Rare Pepes. You know, there were some rules that were created. You were the Rare Pepe scientists. But how did it get like broader adoption? Did people just come to you guys? Where were they learning about Rare Pepe, and how has it become such a big phenomena today?
Rare Pepe became a phenomena because kind of by accident, we figured out that so Spells of Genesis and for example, was a closed system. So all the cards are made by their company and whatever artist they hire to do them. There was no way to have your own Spells of Genesis card, for example. Which maybe they just hadn't thought of it, you know, or we hadn't thought of it either. But we figured out, hey, if people can submit cards and be part of the community, that's it. That's what made it crazy.
The participation.
That's what built. Yes. The participation, it just blew everything up. As soon as people were, they wanted to do more. They wanted to participate. They wanted to promote each other's cards. They wanted to collect each other's cards. They wanted to. So yeah, we did all of that. That's definitely a huge aspect. Some like, you know, casually coordinated, you know, Twitter bombing kind of things definitely went on, you know, because like I had Kaiser Pepe with like Max Kaiser on it. And so we were like, hey, everyone, I'm going to post this at Max. Let's see if we can get him to retweet it, you know? And then we would post it and we'd tell everyone in our chat to do it, you know, just like things like communities do anyway. But that actually worked. And he put Kaiser Pepe on the Kaiser report. So I think that I have a first ever that the Kaiser Pepe was the first NFT on TV. But all these first evers get totally ridiculous. It doesn't really matter. But it does matter that he did that. And then the next episode, he did more. He did like a whole expose on Rare Pepe at all. He was like, this is cool, Banks bad, you know, the standard Max Kaiser stuff. But it was really cool. You know, he was into it. He got it. He kind of was like, you know what? This is great. So that's one way so that was one of the big exposures. And the thing is that John Viller, RIP, he has passed away recently, one of the developers behind the scenes of Counterparty and Rare Pepe, lived in Venezuela. And, oh shit, I do not have my computer plugged in. It just said I'm low on energy. Hold on, guys.
Sure.
Figure this out. High tech.
Make sure you don't go dark, so do plug it in.
Yeah, try not to go dark. Yeah. Hold on. So what happened was, because he lived in Venezuela, I know what happened. He, of course, you know, the currency there is failing, right? But he was making Rare Pepes. And I think he was Bitcoin mining and some other stuff too, what a lot of people did in Venezuela. But he was making Pepes, and so the store, what happened was, I think Kaiser and another, I forgot who the first journalist was that did it. It was on a crypto website. They wrote, you know, struggling, I don't know what the headline, but just something like, you know, struggling young developers in Venezuela managed to survive by buying and selling pictures of frogs, Rare Pepes, to, you know, defeat currency devaluation or something. But then all of the crypto sites took that story and they ran it too. You know how that happens, where they so that really spread adoption too, because that was just so it's just kind of like little things like that kept on happening over and over. You know, and then like Vice did a story, Rare Pepe, kind of edgy. What is this blockchain? You know, and then it just kind of like kept on. So there were definitely some media circles. You know, we had like Le Monde French, we had like Vice, Motherboard, you know, Max Kaiser, all the crypto sites had run stuff. So then it just was kind of blowing up. So you wanted to ask me about the auction. So what happened also, or just ask me a question, Paul, about the auction.
Yeah, because I think also, you know, through that era, at that point, it was both people who'd found the community or in the know, and it was still peer-to-peer, right? It wasn't you could go somewhere to easily kind of run anything or, you know, to really trade. And I mean, you still weren't even calling them NFTs. So yeah, I guess there needed to be some way, and you know, as foundation and the Rare Pepe scientists, you'd curated it in the first place, so it kind of makes sense to extend that. And yeah, how did you think of this kind of live auction format?
Right. So there is a counterparty DEX, so decentralized exchange. It does token to token. It does not do Bitcoin to token because there's some technical stuff with escrowing Bitcoin. But so you could trade the Pepes on the decentralized exchange for example, counterparty XCP, which back then was traded on some shitcoin exchanges, and you could, and then then eventually came Pepe Cash. It's kind of like the community currency. And then that got added to a obscure exchange called Tux, which I don't think exists anymore, like Tux Exchange, I think it was called. And so there was that. But because of the nature of the DEX and the nature of the cards, like you said, people in chat just started saying, hey, I've got one of these, you know, like Pepe Normies. I want one of your Kaiser Pepes. Would you trade me? And they're like, sure, shoot me your address. And then one day, I don't know who, someone just started like saying, well, I want one too. And then the guy said, okay, well, I'll pay you. You know, they started like impromptu auction casually, you know? And I said, hold on, guys, I'll do the auction. Let's do auction tomorrow and I'll run the auction. Now, I had never auctioneered, but I used to go to auctions I used to go to auctions. So in Germany, there are pawn shops in Germany, and when people default on their loan, it's very regimented. In America, you can just like the pawn shop sell stuff. It's like a store. And in Germany, it's not like that. So if you have like you pawn your necklace and you default, then the pawn shop must auction it. It's a certain regimented thing, and they have regular. And so I used to go to those auctions and buy stuff and then sell it, you know, online usually. That was another like thing I used to do around the
deal and then go and find a better price, huh?
Yeah, you could go. Well, a lot of the stuff would go for around the metal price of it. Right, so, but jewelry has a big markup, so you could get really good deals depending on what it was. And if it was like broken jewelry, maybe you could fix it, or you know, there's all kinds of like you know ways to do it. Yeah, you can wash, you know, make it look all shiny again. You know, there's all kinds of like interesting markup tricks that I learned from doing those auctions. But I knew really well how auction runs, and I knew really well how to bid and all the bidding tricks and like all that game. And you know, you have to come early and you inspect the lots, and you know that's really important to understand, because if you don't know what you're bidding on, then you're going to get screwed. You're probably going to bid too much on something in bad condition, and so on and so forth, right? So I already knew a lot about auction. I was like, this is great. I love auctions. Let's do it. So, and then, yeah, I just did it, but we just did it in chat. Didn't do audio, just did chat. I was like, okay, I'm going to set it up. And we did it, and it became like, you know, a little bit more formalized, and it was like once a week, and people really liked that. And that was super important for price discovery of the Pepes. And yeah, it was super important for liquidity. And it started a very interesting liquidity circle, because people would, you know, they would look at the DEX and they would say, okay, this is the DEX price, and now I see it in a live auction going for lower. I'm going to bid. You know what I mean? Or the other way around. Or you would see action. People bought stuff on auction. They would put it right on the decks. They would try to resell it right away. But that's great. It's fun. It's a kind of a cool liquidity circle. So it really helped fuel the whole liquidity of the whole thing. So you have like so basically the auction was like an OTC market, kind of a weird OTC market, and then you had the decks. So you could get this whole flow going. And I think that was super important because it just got people interested. It got, like I said, it flowed liquidity some more. Yeah, it was just fun. It was just a community event. And I did do audio once or twice with it, but that was just more complicated then, and it was really difficult. It was really difficult to escrow all this stuff, to send it then. So it was a lot of energy, and eventually I just kind of faded out because it's exhausting to do. And I think we had what we're calling now auction exhaustion in general, when there's too many auctions too often, you know, and the lots get too big and different things. So it kind of faded away. Then there was another guy that started doing auctions too, like in his channel, which was cool. But you know, I think in general it was just too much auction in general. So I took a break from that, didn't do it. And then you know, I got back into it because in, I think, 2019 at a conference, the conference organizer, you know, I was moderating a panel, and he said, Theo, after the panel, could you know, it was 2019, it was not bull market anymore. He was like, hey, I made 20 t-shirts or limited edition. Could you sell these? Because we're not making any money. I was like, sell the t-shirts on the mic? I was like, let me auction them. And and I did, and it was great. Everyone loved it. And you know, I think I sold a t-shirt for $100 or something, you know, and everyone just thought it was unbelievable that someone bought a shirt for $100 or something, you know. I mean, some of them were like 10, some of them were 20. It was just different. I don't know. I think they had numbers on them. I don't remember, but you know, it was just and then someone heard of that and they said, Theo, could you auction at our meetup? We want to do an auction. It's our, you know, it's like our year anniversary of our like meetup. We want you to auction. Sure, why not? You know, they had like a framed white paper and like, I don't know. It was not NFTs. It was just like, you know, crypto art stuff, different things. It was great. Everyone loved it. It was a total hit. It was like people were bidding. You know, I think I sold that white paper thing for a few €100 or something, and people thought it was unbelievable. And then I did it at a few other conferences. People would just be at the conference as a speaker or moderator, and they'd be like, hey, someone told me about that auction thing. Could you do an auction later? And I was like, sure, we'll do an auction later. Fine. What do you want me to auction? I need to know what it is, so I'm educated about what in the world I'm auctioning. But sure, why not? Usually they had a painting or something. So that's how that happened. And then, you know, the latest NFT craze and everything. And some people were like, hey, bring back the NFT auction. So I was like, I don't know. I guess it's kind of a lot of work. I guess I could do it. But then I did it. And then, and then I just started again doing them in Telegram, and now Telegram has the audio included, so it makes it real easy. And so I've been doing them every 2 weeks for, I don't know, I think 2.5 or 3 months now. Back again very regularly, and it's definitely specializing in vintage NFTs from the 2015 to 2017 era, but you know, we get different stuff too. And that's how the auctions have been happening, and they've been a lot of fun, and they've been growing.
Yeah, and I mean, I keep saying that common thread of it's about the communities, and now you know, kind of how big a community do you need to kind of start an NFT auction? Can it be quite small and niche, and then when other people find out, there's enough there, or are you just seeing this flood of interest as people just want anything at the moment with the hype around NFTs?
I'm seeing even more live auctions from other people too, much smaller, niche, and probably, you know, more like, hey, I've already got fans, come to my live auction and like we'll do it. I've seen that a little bit, but I haven't seen one really a live auction like what I'm doing, where you have to. So there's a process. So you have to submit your lot to the auction through a submission form, and then I inspect, you know, what people have submitted, and then I say, okay, I accept this lot and your reserve price, or I say, no, your reserve price is crazy. Could we go down on that, or you know, whatever, to give feedback on it. And then if it's accepted, then I got to take the NFT in escrow, and then you have to, if the bidders have to register too. And when the bidders are registered, then they get invited to a special chat, and yeah, and that's where the bidding happens. And but anyone can listen to my chat, and I have a way to mirror all the bids into the main chat, so you can kind of like watch the auction without being in the bidding room, and you can still hear me doing the bidding call. So I think it's growing. I think definitely my niche is vintage NFTs so far, but I can auction anything. And yeah, I think there's definitely interest, but yeah, if you're watching this and you want an auctioneer, I'm your auctioneer. I can auction domain names. I can auction anything really. So.
And is there one you've done recently that you can share a bit more about, or was like really exciting?
Or demonstrate, so for that matter.
Oh, yeah. Demonstrate. Like, okay, what do you guys want to auction? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, what do you guys? Let's see. Okay, I've got here. We got here one pair of headphones. Shanky and Paul, you're the bidders. Okay, we got one pair of headphones here. These are very rare headphones, worn by Theo Goodman. You know, worn probably on some podcasts. Do I hear $1? $1? Do I hear $1? Anyone? $1? You're gonna bid?
$1.50.
$1. $1.50. $1.50. I'm bid $1.50. Do I hear $2? $1.50. Do I hear $2? Going once. Fair warning. $1.50. $1.40.
I'll go $2.
Sold. $1.50. Too late. Sold. Anyway, so I tried to do like a rough demonstration. Yeah. I just tried to do a rough demonstration of the bid calling. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to see your bids because I can't see your hands or whatever. But in chat, so the way it works in Telegram is pretty easy because I'm the only one talking. And then I can see the bids, and then there's a real clear timestamp of this person bid first before the other person, and then there's a sticker that comes up that says sold with the hammer, and then it's like super clear who bid what. So that's a really cool way to do it, as far as I'm concerned, because it's really clean as far as that. So so recently, let's see, a week ago.
So Theo, before we get into details, tell our audience what is the name of the channel. So if they want to go and dig in there, maybe take part in an auction, they should know where to go.
Sure. You just go to Telegram and you can just go at NFT auctions. And that's my
at NFT auctions. That's it.
Yeah. That's it. You can also find, I'm working on goodman.auction. You can also find, but it's still under construction. But just at NFT auctions or t.me NFT auctions, if you put it into a web browser, is the way to go to find my auction channel. And yeah, so I think the highlights were a vintage NFT card from Spells of Genesis called FD card, the first Spells of Genesis card from 2015, sold for $45,000. And yeah, just as an example, we had one Rare Pepe, which is the first, Series 1, which sold, I think one time one of them sold for $20,000, another time one sold for $10,000. So I think those are some of the highlights of like high dollar items that sold recently. Yeah, sure, that's not like millions or something, but that's still pretty considerate for a like FD card. I don't know. I think there's like 400 of them. So it's not a one of one. You have to think of that too. It's not like a one of one. So yeah, I think those are definitely were the highlights, and yeah, that was good. Yeah, any audience questions if you're asking? give them it, put them in. I see.
Yeah, drop them into chat.
Let's see. I'm trying to find that comments.
Yeah, you can just drop it on
NFT.
YouTube, Twitter.
I see it now. Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. So yeah, I think those were some of the highlights. I mean, there's some things ranging from 50 to $100 all the way up to 40,000. So it just depends on what it is that's being auctioned at that time.
And what's the average price here? Like, what's the average value or average price? Like, is it usually hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands?
That's really good. I wanted to do metrics now that I've done a few. Now it makes a little bit of sense after you've done a few to like say, okay, what's the average? I don't know. I think off the top of my head, it's probably about 1,000 because you have some of those higher dollar ones that I said, probably push it up, and then you do have some that are a few hundred, push it down some. So it's probably between like 1,000 and 1,500. It's probably an average, which is pretty high. And I'm doing probably around. Actually, okay, I think it's actually a little high. I think it's more like 1,500 because I'm doing around 50 items per auction, and each auction is approximately 90 minutes. So it's pretty rapid fire, like it's compared to, I don't know, a newbie or someone that's just trying to do it. Like, hey, go in once. This is really cool, kind of thing. It's more like okay, we're getting into the auction now. It's auction time. Boom, boom, boom. No one bid. Now we're going to go to the next item. Keep everybody engaged. It's not a boring auction. It's not a sleeper auction.
Yeah.
And
do you think these, obviously it's very inflated in the general crypto market at the moment, and we're seeing all-time highs across Bitcoin and Ethereum. Do you think that's also driving up prices for NFTs? And then do you think if it turns to a bear market, will the NFTs kind of hold the same value? Because some people are hopefully expecting that.
Sure. Well, Rare Pepe did, because Rare Pepe has been through a cycle. So there you go. You got that as an answer right there. But yeah, it's I like your little warning here. This is educational, not investment advice. It's great. Yeah, but it's totally different now. There's so many more, out there now. So it definitely, the bull market definitely affects it because you got to think, look, it's the same thing with crypto. A lot of the buyers, there's a lot of mainstream people coming into the NFT market now, for sure. But overall, it's a lot of the same money flowing around. You got to imagine that. If I sell an NFT for I don't know, 1 Ethereum or 1 Bitcoin, I'm probably gonna buy a bunch of NFTs too, at least with some of that. You know what I mean? And so if I just sold, and a lot of the people that are flipping NFTs are also making NFTs, and so it's a lot of the same money flowing around. So of course, when that liquidity is worth less, then yes, that's going to be an issue. However, I'm surprised myself how many, I predicted it. I talked about this in talks for years. I said, that was what was so funny. I said, Theo, could you do a talk at my conference? I said, well, about what? And he said, whatever you want. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to talk about Rare Pepe. And that was like more when it really started more, and just because it's so wacky. And everyone loved it, and it was cool. And, but there was still a lot of people dismissing it. What is this? Same discussion you have now with NFTs. Who cares? You can right click it. It's not sound money. It's not economically viable under whatever academic XYZ theories and all this stuff. And I said, yeah, of course it's not. It's art. It's definitely not. It's definitely not sound money. It definitely doesn't make sense. And you're correct. It's totally subjective value craziness. And that's what it is. And that's great. And that is what we're seeing now. So what we're seeing now is, and what I described earlier about the domain names, gold bugs. So who's already in crypto? Gold bugs, silver bugs, they're probably already into Bitcoin crypto. Political leaning libertarians, anarchists, anything like that, they're probably already into Bitcoin. People that work in banks, probably privately, are already into Bitcoin. Okay, traders, forex traders, stock traders, speculators, VCs, tech people, they're all already in. Well, not all, but a high percentage, or a decent chunk of that is already in. Who's not in? That is coming in now. All the people that don't understand trading, that don't understand economics, they don't care about silver and gold, they don't know what it is, they don't have any background in it. Artists, musicians, crazy people that collect baseball cards and stuff, they kind of are from that same thing a little bit, but they might not be in the whole like libertarian stuff. That's kind of weird, but they like to collect baseball cards, maybe high dollar ones, you know. All those people are coming in now. That's a whole new group of people. That's a vast, huge group. You know, many people will pay for a Pokemon. They don't give a shit about a bar of gold. You know, so the NFT thing, the NFT world, that's what the whole NFT world is doing. It's appealing to, you know, hyper subjective value, whereas Bitcoin maximalism style stuff is appealing to hyper objective value in a way. That's how that's a simplified way how I try to look at it.
Yeah.
So, you know, both of them intertwine, of course. But if you really, you know, but you get people that are really far on one or really far on the other. So the hyper internet kind of young people and, you know, they're like, yeah, let me get this thing, collect digital things, gaming. I mean, we talked about all that for years, but that's what's coming in now. So maybe, I don't know, who knows? Maybe there's enough new people coming in to fuel some of this NFT stuff, you know, but it's hard to say.
It's a good point. Talking about subjectivity, one quick question that I have is we saw some, you know, outrageous and humongous valuation of NFTs as well with people's art and a few other things. Without getting into specifics, what's your take on those, you know, sort of completely black swan type of, you know, extremely high value type of NFT sales?
Like people?
Yeah, like people, you know, Beeple's few, take Beeple, for example, right? 50 million plus 69 million worth NFT. Do you think it's really worth it? Again, it's subjective. It's, you know, beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, if you may. But what's your take on it?
Is it really worth it? Well, that's kind of hard to say. Probably because it already has a price record now. It's just self-fulfilling, a lot of that stuff. I mean, you know what? And it's just like Bitcoin a little bit. I mean, actually people are going to get mad, but it's not a lot different than, you know, Bitcoin is an NFT. I mean, in a way, hear me out. You're just collecting the B logo. Just collecting the B logo, and your wallet balance is how many B logos you have. The same thing, you're collecting the Ethereum logo. That's how many Ethereum logos you have. Yes, it's the native token of that blockchain. Or some people would say, Theo, Bitcoin's not a token. It's only UTXUO. Yeah, I know. But it's still the native token, basically. Come on, you know, that's it. And how your balance, and there's this logo. Of course, there's different logos for different wallets, but in general, you're collecting this thing, this B, or you're collecting the Ethereum logo. And so, how much is it worth? Well, it's worth whatever it's traded for. So it's not a lot. I mean, you said like, yeah, art and like that. I think so. I think that, you know, the Beeple thing has already gotten so much attention through that it'll probably not sell for lower than that, because that person is not going to take that loss. And it already has this kind of, you know, huge reputation. So it's just not. And I think some of the others are like that too. And like Beeple he's not an unknown artist, at least in crypto. So it's not just like a random NFT money laundering scheme or something. You know what I mean? Like, or just like a random NFT is minted and then it's sold for a bunch on a platform and backed out. And the whole Beeple thing. What I wanted to say about that is really funny because it was also an auction. It was at Christie's, and but it ends up, and I think Christie's takes 15%, I think, which is not unheard of for big auction houses. But a DeFi whale dude bought it, so they didn't even what was their value add? Because a crypto person bought it anyway. So that's why I'm just wondering,
Well,
so
and
funny.
like you say about the record of that price for what it's sold for is, I guess, a big part of what auction houses were there for was, keeping the history and the pedigree and quality, and there's curation, but a huge part of it was people trusting the price that Christie's were putting on it because they've kept some records of it. Whereas now it's all on chain. It's kind of like, if it is going to be people with crypto or other NFT creators buying NFTs in that marketplace, then there doesn't need to be like that auction house, but maybe there's still an auctioneer like yourself.
There's auctioneering, and even I do appraisals too. You do appraisals when, like I said, you have to submit the lot, what you want to sell, and I have to say, okay, if they say they want a reserve price, and I have to say this is not doable, or this is not, I'm not going to get bidders for this. I just have a feeling from whatever it is that I will get bidders or I won't get bidders for this. And that's not a lot different than what Christie's or whatever. They're also appraising it in their head. They might not be telling you what their appraisal is, of course, but they are definitely appraising it, and at least internally. So that's definitely part of an auction house's job, is to appraise, and definitely it's definitely a form of curation to what is on this these lots. It's just like a show basically of like these are our selected items, and we're going to put them up for auction. These all fit together just like a DJ set, and here we go. And and I think that definitely though I joked about the value add, but the value add is like you said, Christie, just boom, but it sold at Christie's. Didn't sell it super rare. It didn't sell at Known Origin. It didn't sell at OpenSea. Sold at Christie's. So that's boom, 15% on top of the, at least.
Yeah.
So there's an upcoming auction. They're going to do an auction of some CryptoPunks next month, and I expect that to cause another wave of NFT mania again, because they'll probably sell for a lot. They'll probably be record. I don't know if it'll sell more than for some of them will sell more than for people, but there'll be some definitely in the millions, and it'll be a big deal, and it'll be in the news again. So that's definitely a NFT event, let's say, coming up. So
that's one to watch out for. All right. Well, we're rounding up our hour here, but before we let you go, one of the things we love to do with our guests is just a rapid fire set of questions. Are you ready for it, Theo?
Oh, I'm ready. I'm always ready.
Nice. First one, if you had to choose one of these to trade, would it be an NFT, domains, or Bitcoin?
Oh, NFT.
Very good. And then in one sentence, what's common between the kind of 2017 and 2021 bull run? What you're seeing?
Celebrities, celebrity marketing.
Yeah.
Good point. Good point.
Nice. And what's the single biggest use case for crypto?
Judicial arbitrage.
Nice.
Good one.
Okay, and then complete the sentence. DeFi makes
games.
Yep. economic games. That's a good one.
Yeah, mhm.
And then what's one piece of advice you'd give to a new NFT creator, somebody just getting into this space?
I would say experiment, and at the beginning, less is more, probably.
Excellent. Wow. Thanks, Theo. That's been really interesting. I mean, that's covering almost 7 years there of kind of what is some of the crypto history from the creative side. And I really liked your point there around, there's so much in crypto that's objective value, but then there's also the subjective value, and maybe that matters more in the long run than the underlying tokens. So
it could. I think that we had a big imbalance, and now it's kind of coming more, maybe a little bit more balanced, than it was.
Right. But we really enjoyed speaking with you, Theo. I think you brought in a very interesting perspective, right? Just from all your learnings with art and early community and Bitcoin and NFT and what have you. So thank you so much for being on our show.
Thanks for having me, and everyone make sure to subscribe and give a thumbs up and all that stuff, and check out the links in the description. Talk to you soon.
Cool. Thanks, Theo.
Okay. See you.
Great. And yeah, as Theo said, we've kind of got the channels there. We'll probably summarize some of this as well out on Twitter on our Going Elliptic and goingelliptic.com newsletter. And we've already done one NFT themed kind of newsletter article there from the tokens or the kind of platform value there. But we'll probably look to do another one that's actually looking at some of these things like Rare Pepes and the upcoming CryptoPunks. So look out for that as well.
Yes, I think NFT certainly has gathered a lot of attention, and it's evolving as well. It's a good idea. Yeah, we'll cover it more. We changed this schedule, the one way we call guests, the crypto chat, but we'll keep our charted to our regular usual schedule. So we'll probably do it tomorrow. So also join us tomorrow, right, for a session on the weekly market analysis. Last week, we ended up making an incredible prediction. We looked at the market, we charted Bitcoin, and we said, hey, this is the place where it might go and bottom out. And interestingly, it proved us right. Now it may not happen every time, but we are happy to share the tools of how we approach it. How did we even make that prediction, and what are we seeing in the coming weeks and the days ahead. So do join us tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that, and looking forward to learning more from you, Shanky, around charting. And yeah, we'll have another interesting guest next week, and we'll look forward to seeing you all then. So tune in again. Thanks.
100%. And keep going elliptic.